Hello, good morning. It's just gone 5 AM on Friday the 8th of April and I'm right outside Lincoln Vale portal of Combe Down Tunnel on the Two Tunnels Greenway. I've just left my home in Bath literally 2 or 3 minutes ago and I'm starting out on my first 300km DIY of the year. This is actually an official DIY audax. I entered it yesterday, so I've got a time allowance and everything. It's my qualifier for my SR series. So just a brief recap. An SR series is a 200, 300, 400 and 600km ride, all ridden in the same year under UK regulations. I've already done my 200. I did that soon after the season started in early November. Then I eased off, did lots of camping and messing about over the winter. I've been riding 200km what I call synthetic DIYs. They're DIYs in all but name. I don't enter them for the points. I just find that pointless at my age these days. But I did find it quite hard building back up after Christmas, especially on the Caribou. The last few on my dropped handlebarred 700C wheel bike has been a lot easier, and the last couple in particular I've actually gone way over distance. I've made them like nearly 135, 140 miles, so I feel ready for the 300. So 200 already done, 300 today, 400 in a couple of weeks time hopefully, then I'll probably do the 600 in July, I'm not sure yet. Today's just going to be a very vlog type video. It's based on a calendar event, a 200km event called Borders and Castles. I'm not even sure if it's run anymore, so I've just nicked that route. It runs up and down the border in Wales and it passes lots of castles, so I'll probably try and stop and film at each of those. And then basically to get to the start and the finish is almost exactly 100km, just a few kilometres short, which is why I'm doing this quick dog leg up to Combe Down Tunnel and back. I've always said before, this applies to me only. The jump from 200 to 300km is always a big step for me. I'll explain why I believe that is, and I'll explain also why I massively use that to my advantage. Once again, it's my personal experience only, but there's a massive benefit you can gain from it. Anyway, next stop, Chepstow Castle. I'll speak to you there. It should be light by then, hopefully. Quick update, I've just stopped underneath the M4. You may hear the traffic above me. Put some arm warmers on. I have got a long sleeve base layer on and a long sleeve thermal top. There was the chance of overheating today, but it's actually quite a nip to the air. It's not a strong wind, but it's a northeasterly, so I whacked some arm warmers on. May need to take them off later on, I don't know. Tell you a funny story about this. I've just left a bike track. I'm making my way skirting around Bristol up towards the Severn Bridge, but this M4 bridge is quite isolated. There's no real houses nearby. My friend Will Pom, he organises the audaxes out of Bristol, GWR Randonnees I think he calls them. He was telling me once about 5-6 years ago, he was finishing a ride, he came along here and some guy had set up a drum kit there, had his van there, must have drove up and was practicing drums underneath this bridge. I thought it was great. Now in Chepstow, halfway across the River Wye, and as far as I know this is the border between England and Wales. So a little bit about the route. It follows the border up roughly and then it goes up to, I think, the latitude round about the same height as Leinster, Worcester, that's the sort of ballpark. So you're weaving in and out of the border most of the day, and there's lots of castles as you'd imagine. So there's the first one of the day, Chepstow Castle. You can see the boundary sign there, Monmouthshire. We're about to head into Gloucestershire. That feels counterintuitive. So that's the route. It's a calendar event which used to start in the grounds of the castle over there. So this is literally the first few hundred yards. This is the old A48 bridge my friend Brian told me recently. He said before they built the new one, which runs across there, very busy these days, this used to be bedlam in the 1960s, because you can imagine it's one way as it is now. Even for a B road it's quite sort of limited, isn't it? So yeah, we're going to carry on up here. The next castle will be St Brivel's. I'll try and stop at all the castles and just show you, give you an idea of the route, but I'm not going to do too much filming because I just really want to get my first 300 under my belt. Just a quick bit about the bike I'm on. You probably noticed I'm back on my red thorn. I've just noticed a big mistake I've made. I've come out and I normally have my toolkit in that pocket. It's still on the blue thorn. So I've got spare inner tubes and a pump. I just need to stop at a shop somewhere and try and pick up some tyre levers. Yeah, my mistake. I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I mean, that's a perfect example of what the sort of thing that happens on audaxes. You know, long distance cyclists, long distance cycling will throw these sort of challenges at you, either sort of your own making or not of your own making. This one is of my own making. It's my own stupid fault. I should have checked it. I thought I had, to be honest. So yeah, I'm just going to have to try and source some tyre levers for an emergency. I'm now at Castle number 2. This is St Briavels in the Forest of Dean. That is actually a youth hostel. I stayed in there a few years back. In fact, I stayed there several times. Can't see me ever staying in youth hostels again. They're just far too expensive these days, unless they go back to renting out the dormitories separately. But I did a bit of research recently. I think the cheapest I could get was £95 a night. I mean, I can get a travel lodge for half that price, so shame really. But anyway, second castle. Just come along quite a hard road from Chepstow up towards Colford. Now we're going to drop down steeply. I think we go through Colford actually, and then climb up, drop down over Simmons Yat, and I think the next castle will be Goodridge Castle just before we get to Ross-on-Wye. I'm hoping either Colford or Ross-on-Wye I'll be able to find a bike shop and get some tyre levers. I've picked up a couple of bits of really hard plastic off the roadside, so I think in a push that would probably get the tyre off. I can get them back on without tyre levers, no problem. It's just that peace of mind really. I just feel less impotent now, actually having a couple of bits of, well, just emergency plastic really to get me out of a hole. It's amazing how it really plays with your mind. The moment I realised I didn't have my toolkit with the tyre levers, that's the only thing that's really crucial to keeping me going. I started thinking every pothole I went over, I thought, oh no, the tyre feels soft. Anyway, steep plunge down towards Colford, Ross-on-Wye. Gives you an idea of what we're dropping down into lovely wooded Wye Valley. I'm now in Colford, and there's a hardware shop over there, so hopefully I can pick up some tyre levers in there, and if not, they'll probably tell me where there's a cycle shop in town. It's a medium-sized place. I'm just sat on the market square eating a piece of lardy cake and got black coffee from the local bakery. Coming up to 50 miles done. So that's always quite a nice milestone to get to. I've said it quite a few times before, but I'll repeat it. I always find the jump from 200 up to 300 quite a big jump, because you'll notice I switch from miles to kilometres all the time, and I always think of 200 kilometres as 125 miles, and today's ride, 300 kilometres, slightly over, is 187. So I always used to frame it as a little bit over 100 miles or a little bit below 200 miles, so you can sort of see instead of a third more, it always felt almost double. And a friend of mine completely changed my mindset a few years ago for the better, so let me explain. I was saying that exact point. I find the jump from 200 up to 300 quite hard, and after that I'm okay. And he said he loves 300s, and I said, why is that? They always used to fill me with a little bit of dread, because they come this time of the year quite early when it can still be cold. And he said because it maximises the day out on the bike. You leave at dawn, you get back at dusk, and just that little bit of advice completely changed my mindset, and I came to love 300s. I still do actually, and I tend to use them as a bit of an anchor, because I know with my pace and my tiredness, 300 and a little bit more, say 300 kilometres plus about 10%, is about the maximum I can ride during the day before I get tired and I need sleep. So once I get over that sort of hurdle to 300, I base everything on a 300. So for instance, a 400 is just 300 and a little bit more, some sleep, and then what, 40 miles? You know, it seems so easy in comparison. And then a 600, well, it's a little bit over 300 because that's all I can manage in a day. and then a little bit under 300 the next day. So you can sort of see it's that frame of reference. Once you actually reach it, it's really, really useful for gauging your effort on the longer rides. And several years ago, I started experimenting with 300s as an anchor point, a frame of reference, and I used DIYs to experiment, and I just found it worked so well for me personally, because I used to try and ride a 600, try and do 400 kilometers. That's normally where the sleep stops are, and I'd get there exhausted, and quite often there was no bed left because I was so late, because I was one of the last people on the road. And then I'd just virtually get no sleep and then start off the next day. So I found if I slept when I needed it, about 300, 315, 320 kilometers, and then wake up the next day and have a little bit less than 300, it was fine. I mean, in a nutshell, I'd rather do 300 kilometers on day 2 fresh than only 200 completely wrecked, actually. And I experimented and it just works so well for me. And it's that big thing, don't think about the big distance, just break it down into manageable chunks. And I know what the manageable chunk is for me. The maximum I can ride in a day without sleep is about 300 kilometers, that's about 10%. On the road to Ross-on-Wye now, and just passing Goodridge Castle over there in the distance. No bike shop in Colford. I tried the hardware shop. He had a puncture repair kit but no tyre levers. I went to a motorcycle shop who used to stock a few cycle spares, and then a bike shop opened, cycle shop opened, so he stopped stocking it because everybody went there, and they've since closed. The joys of capitalism. Anyway, he assures me there's one just as I get into Ross-on-Wye, so that's a couple of miles along here. Phew, lifesaver. That has been quite a mindfuck. Let me show you what I picked up off the road. I've no idea if it worked, but it certainly kept me sane on the road. A couple of bits of plastic like that. I trod on them to see if they were brittle or they're bent. It seemed to be alright. And there's another bit in there. It's 1:30 and I'm stopping for an early lunch, early on the road anyway. So I just saw this Mirko garage. I know I'm going up there and it gets very minor roady. I thought this was a good spot, and it's in the sun as well to have my lunch. It's 1:30. I'm making very, very slow progress because it's quite hilly, and also I'm riding into not particularly strong wind, but it's enough to sort of really take its toll. I'm hoping this afternoon, as I turn south at the top of the rectangle, it's going to be much easier. That's what I'm hoping anyway. My time allowance for this is 21 hours and 2 minutes, so say 21 hours. I left at 5 AM, so 21 minus 24 a day is that's 2 o'clock in the morning, isn't it? So I mean, it's not even 2 o'clock yet now, so I've got over 12 hours to do 100 miles. So, but definitely I'm well behind schedule. I think that forgetting the toolkit and having to keep stopping in Colford and then Ross-on-Wye, and it's playing on my mind. As I said, the wind as well. So yeah, just this is typical audax, you know. You just got to sort of keep plugging away, sort of don't give up, don't become despondent. And I always have a backup, you know. As I get older, sooner or later I will just become so slow I can't get round in time, but I will never give up if I'm going to run out of time. Give you a good example on the 200, when I went down to, where was it, Taunton Travelodge, I was over the time allowance on that by 2 hours. I just didn't give a monkey's. I mean, for one thing, I had to get to my Travelodge anyway, but yeah, that's how I sort of keep going. Just sort of think, well, look, even if I run out of time, I will still do the distance, you know, as long as I'm not sick or injured or anything like that. Anyway, I'm going to have a big snack here, my sandwiches, then it's up there. To be honest, at last I'm here, Chepstow Castle. That's at the very top of the thin rectangle. It's been a real slog getting here, cold wind, The terrain's been quite undulating, roads bumpy. I'm not complaining, it's just been very hard. I'll give an example. I said earlier on my time allowance for this was 21 hours. Well, this has taken 10 and a half. So halfway is taken me half of my time allowance. I'm just hoping, praying almost, it's going to be a lot easier heading south because the wind really has taken its toll. Anyway, I just came down this little dog leg, back through the gate and then turn right that way, and then I'll soon find out if I've got a tailwind. It's now gone 5 p.m, I think it's about 5:20, and the section from Chepstow Castle has been much easier, even the uphills, and I seem to be chugging along about 14-15 miles an hour, and I think I've built up a surplus already. I did a quick calculation and my estimated time of arrival back in Bath would be about 1 o'clock, so I've already got an hour in hand, but I cannot afford to squander that because there's some hills coming up. I'm just about to cross over the Black Mountains. Going to be going up through Grosmont. Apologies for locals, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. It's spelled Grosmont. I think it's Grosmont. And then there's a castle there, and then there's White Castle, and then we drop down to the final one at Raglan. I'm just giving the Garmin a charge here. I've just had a battery low alarm, and I'm also just using the opportunity to get some food on board, but 10-15 minutes is all I'm going to stay here. If the Garmin does start losing its charge, I can plug it in actually, and it will still record. I can put it in the snack bag, so once I get to Raglan I can do the route by memory, so half an hour in there should solve the problem. Anyway, quick snack here. Gonna give my wife a call just to let her know how far behind schedule I am, and I'll see you up the road. That's the big climb out of Grosmont, however you pronounce it. Got the beacons and the Black Mountains in the near distance, and the penultimate castle is just round the corner. You do a dog leg just literally up to it and then back. I'll talk to you there. I'm here at White Castle. This is the penultimate castle. Just a quick update then. When I left that church porch, there wasn't much shelter there, and I was pretty cold when I left, and I started off in quite cold rain. The progress was quite good. The road was a bit slippery and there's a lot of rush hour traffic, and I put off and off putting on a cape, and in the end I got so cold and I was getting wet I put it on. The usual happened within about 15 minutes. The sun was out, I was too hot. There was a long climb up to Grosmont, however you pronounce it, apologies. There is a castle there, but I've never actually seen it. I've never actually seen the signs for it, but I've seen it marked on a map. I was just going to do such a short video today, and I was probably going to end it and fill it out just telling you what I've been up to recently, but it just shows you can never tell. This has been a really hard audax, and it still is actually, and I'm sort of chasing the time. I'm sort of okay for time. I think I've got about 45 minutes, an hour in hand, but there's a couple of challenging climbs coming up. And also after dark I need to be very careful, you know, not riding too fast, so I can't afford to be complacent. But I've got to stop here just a few minutes because my Garmin's getting, I've got a low battery charge alarm. Can't quite tell what it is, but once I get down towards Raglan I can literally just hook it into the charger, pop it in there, and it'll record. I know the way after that, so there is, just as long as that gets me for the next few miles I'll be alright. Few more minutes for the Garmin charging. Going to break some chocolate up, put it in my snack bag, have a couple of mouthfuls here, have a really good drink, starting to feel dehydrated, and then the last leg down to the last castle at Raglan. Then after that is just the normal way I take back towards Chepstow over the Severn Bridge to my house. Well, it's coming up to 1:20 in the morning and I'm back in Bath. I'm bang on 187 miles, which is slightly over distance. I got about a mile and a bit to go to my house, so I'm going to finish with about, what, 40 something minutes in hand. I put in a couple of really long hard sessions this afternoon to try and build that time surplus up a little bit, and then I eased off a little bit. So after my last bit of video I couldn't really film Raglan Castle. I could see it, it was all outlined, silhouetted, but it wouldn't have come out on film. When I got to Raglan, I just got myself sorted for the night ride, put all my extra layers on, charged my Garmin and everything. And then it's been fairly easy, you know, with the tailwind, but what got me today was just the cold. I just feel so cold now. And actually, as I was riding from Raglan towards Chepstow, a gritter lorry passed me, actually, in fact 2 of them with their flashing orange lights on. They weren't actually dispensing it as they passed me, but it looks like they were heading up on the high ground. And then the bit coming back from on the bike track to my house coming eastwards, so bitterly cold. I just want to go have a hot shower and then get into a warm bed. Didn't quite go as planned today, but it just shows, you know, when you have setbacks, if you just sort of say to yourself, I'm going to finish anyway. In fact, when I got to Chepstow Castle, I had to finish to get home. And I sort of knew I was going to have a tailwind on the way back. I never for a moment expected that headwind this morning to be so vicious and so cold. Anyway, I'm going to sign off here. If you've got this far, thanks so much for watching it. I don't know if it's a very interesting video. If it's boring when I edit it, I probably won't post it. So if you're watching it, I've decided to post it. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Until next time.